Trey Willis has a decade of experience in planning, designing, and managing structural and civil engineering. Now he wants to bring his experience to Hollywood Town Council, where he wants to serve the town as his next town council member. I speak exclusively with Trey for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on my Facebook page. Trey Willis, welcome to the award-winning Quintin's Close-Ups.
Man, it was great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. I know that you have over a decade of experience in planning, designing, and managing civil and structural engineering with JW Construction, where you are obviously the operations director. You also have lived in Hollywood since 2014 and served on the town's board of zoning appeals board. But now you want to be a member of Hollywood Town Council. Tell me, why Trey Willis? Why now?
Well, as you mentioned, my background is in design, construction, and the development of infrastructure. I have a degree from the University of South Carolina in civil engineering. Right now, some of the largest issues facing the town is infrastructure and development, and I feel like I could be a huge asset to the town.
And let me turn to some developing news, that is, as you probably heard about, as everyone else did early this week. But the town of Hollywood has been suspended, that is, from the National Flood Insurance Program for failing to comply with minimal federal, obviously, requirements, leaving property owners without flood insurance coverage and no access to federal disaster aid if damage occurs. Let me ask you this. When you were talking to the voters of the town of Hollywood, do you feel that obviously the residents will have to seek expensive protection for flood damage from private insurance companies?
Yes, unfortunately, they will. The way that process works, if you are in those flood-prone areas, I think it's zones A and Z, I believe, and you have a mortgage that's federally backed, they can call your mortgage and require you to go out and get that private mortgage insurance, which is typically a lot more expensive than the federally backed program.
And I know, obviously, you're not on town council yet, but have you heard about these federal requirements that the town needs to meet?
I have not. It's typically they have to adopt the federal FEMA maps is what they have to be. Those ordinances have to be in place in the town is typically what happens, but I don't know the intricate details of that.
And let me ask you this too. Have you been able to identify those flood hazard areas in the town of Hollywood?
I have not. On its county's website, those areas should be identified. I think Charleston County recently updated their FEMA maps to also be in compliance. So that information should be available on the county's website.
And I know Hollywood Mayor John Donmeyer says that, quote, the town council is adopting a state-written model ordinance to solve the differences between Charleston County ordinances, town ordinances, and the state ordinance to resume participation in the National Flood Insurance Program. What of those differences have you heard about around town?
I'm not sure, but it appears to be they need to update our local flood maps to match what the new flood maps are. But again, I don't have those intricate details, but I believe that's what is concerning.
And I know that you want to obviously maintain a rural, close-knit culture and heritage in Hollywood while engaging residents to move them forward as one. How do you define quality of life right now in the town of Hollywood?
I think the quality of life here in Hollywood is pretty good. We can use some improvement, but I think the people here in Hollywood really like the close-knit rural structure of the town, and most people want to keep that. And I think without the proper zoning and development, a hedge against huge developments, we're going to lose that eventually.
How can you ensure growth with smart growth in Hollywood?
Well, what we can do, we can't stop people from doing what they want to do on your own land. Obviously, we can't do that. So if you want to go over here and build, how many ever houses you can fit on your property, you can do that, but you just have to do that within the constraints of the zoning and the ordinances of the town. So I don't think it's right for a developer to purchase 100 acres of land that butts up to their neighbor's property and build right up to the property line. So one of the things I would encourage us to pass is an ordinance that has a buffer zone where there's at least a 50-foot buffer, I think is reasonable, to where there's no construction, there's no development. If there are trees there, there are trees there. If it's wooded, it stays wooded, and you can develop what you want to do on your property without impacting your neighbors.
Well, let me ask you this. What are the town's current growth projections?
Right now, I know we have in process, there are two large subdivision, possibly three. I don't think the third one has started yet, that are currently under construction. One of them is just down the street here at Stono Ferry, where they came in and clear cut it, all the trees out of there, which I think was just a disaster. And then the other one is just up on the other side of Stono Ferry, closer to Highway 17. I think that's a 60-acre development. So there are a lot of developments coming down the pipeline and proposals being thrown out there, probably every couple of months. But making sure we only got one shot at this, because once it's approved, it's approved.
Right.
And there's no, oh, well, we're going to change our mind and go back. We kind of want you to do this. That's not the way that process works. So we need to make sure we get it right the first time and not continue making the same mistakes that we've made maybe in the past with some past developments.
And what were those mistakes?
Well, for one, the development up here at Stono Ferry, I don't think they complied with any of the tree ordinances that we have for the county or the town. Two, that development was approved like 10 or 15 years ago. And now, within the last year or two, they've just now started construction on it. Our approval should have an expiration date, and these developments should have a completion date. What we don't want is someone getting approval and then waiting 15 years to do it. Because by that time, you've had several different things that have taken place. The town itself has changed in that 15 years. So maybe what we approved back then doesn't apply to today's standard. So one, we need to have expiration dates on these approval. And once we give them an expiration date, they'd have to start the process back over if they're not complete with construction.
And what are those things that, for example, were approved 10, 15 years ago that does not meet today's standards in Hollywood?
Well, for one, that development that I was just talking about,
right?
It probably meets today's standards, but to things we did 10 and 15 years ago in development, we don't do today, because we learn from our mistakes. So maybe that design could have been way more improved with flood mitigation, with more green spaces, with parks. With all these things that we actually value now, with trails. Maybe we should have had a buffer there, because right now they're up against another neighborhood. So maybe we should have thought about that a little bit more and redesigned this to fit more with today's standards.
Now, the average developer is building how many homes right now in Hollywood?
I'd say probably 100. Their proposals are up to 300 and 400.
Okay. And what are the current housing trends in the town of Hollywood?
Well, right now, not just the town of Hollywood, but across the board, there's a shortage of housing. I was talking with a realtor of mine, and he was telling me how the typical market, what they typically have this time of year, it's like only a third of the houses that's on the market in totality. So there's a huge demand for development and for houses, and which is going to obviously drive these new house prices up.
Well, let me ask you a sidetrack question. How is the rent control impact housing affordability in Hollywood?
I'm sorry, say again?
Yes, sir. How is the rent control impact housing affordability in obviously Hollywood?
Rent control?
Yes, sir.
Rent control, you can have subsidized rent.
Okay.
Subsidized housing,
right,
where, people receive assistance from their rent. But even with that, that's an issue that is going to continue to plague not only Hollywood, but the greater Charleston area, just because simply of the price of the housing market. So why am I going to rent my house for significantly less when I can go out on the free market and get market value for it, which is probably more than subsidized housing. So I think that's going to be an issue. The town does have Holly Grove that was developed under the previous administration, where they are trying to mitigate some of that burden. But we need more developments like that.
How many units of affordable housing does Hollywood need?
Well, that's something that needs to be looked at and
Okay.
discovered. I currently do not know what that need is.
And if you were to get on, obviously, town council, what would be your plan to have, well, actually to rezone single family neighborhoods?
I think, well, the town has several different zoning. A lot of Hollywood is zoned rural agriculture. I think
Right.
it's R1, if my memory serves me correctly. I think with R1, the minimum lot size I think is 20,000 square feet, which is like a half acre or something like that. I would encourage future developments for large scale developments that are R1 to at least be 1 acre lots. I think with 1 acre lots, those that would better mesh with the rural atmosphere of Hollywood. Now, again, that's for, I would think that would be for developments of, say 15 and more. If it's smaller than that, I think the town should be able to work with a developer to not only keep the rural sense of Hollywood, but also work with them to, well, maybe we reduce that size to 3/4 of an acre. So I think it all goes back to relationships and working together with individuals to get everybody get what they need to get done out of this whole scenario.
And this might be a redundant question, Trey, but what incentives do you want the developers to bring to the town of Hollywood?
I'm sorry, say again.
Yeah, what type of incentives do you want the developers to bring to the town of Hollywood?
I don't know if I want developers to bring an incentive to the town of Hollywood. I want developers to develop smart developments that fit into the community. I don't want them to come in here and just throw up 300 houses and try to pack houses in there for the sake of making a dollar. That's what I don't want. We want smart developments. We want nice developments, something that we can be proud of, not something we look back in 5 years and say, man, we really screwed up on this one. We should have done something a lot different. That's what I want.
And obviously, when you talk about housing, you talk about obviously seniors. What cap would you propose if you become a town council member in which seniors can't be taxed in regards to housing?
Well, I think if you're 65 and older, you should that should be where it starts at. But 65 and older sounds reasonable to me.
And what economic opportunities are critically important to the town of Hollywood right now?
Well, economic opportunities in the greater Charleston area is here. Um, there are proposals in this community, maybe not necessarily Hollywood, but maybe in Ravenel, of zones where factories or companies can come and put their operations. But Hollywood is not a huge manufacturing town or anything like that. We're just a small knit rural community. And we need some housing. We need some affordable housing, but we need infrastructure. That's one of the things that's plaguing the people of Hollywood. We need good infrastructure. We need our sewer to work. We need people that don't have city water that's getting bad water out of the ground. That's dealing with chlorine, dealing with salt. They're dealing with I'm sorry, not chlorine, but iron.
Right.
We need these issues fixed.
And I'm going to get to that in just a second. But let me ask you this. What is the current tax base for the town of Hollywood?
The current tax base?
Yes, sir.
I'm not sure what the current tax base of the town of Hollywood is.
Okay. With the COVID situation affecting the local economy so badly, do you know how it has affected tax revenues that this town needs to fund projects?
No, I'm not. I'm not sure how COVID has affected the town revenue. Um, so I'm not aware of that.
Sure, no worries. What is, I know you're not on town council just yet, but what do you have you heard as far as the town's current operating budget?
I'm If my memory serves me correctly, the last time I saw the town's operating budget, it was around, I think, about $1 million, if my memory serves me correctly.
And what are the last figures when it comes to the population for the town of Hollywood?
Town of Hollywood population right now actually has increased. I was actually just talking with a neighbor about this last night, actually, and the demographics are shifting. The last census that I saw, I think the population was about 7,000. Now that's not this previous census data, but that's obviously 10 years ago. But we believe that that number has at least doubled.
And obviously you have your own, business right there, JW Construction. What new business revenue would you help the town of Hollywood create?
Well, new businesses revenue, I think what we need right now in the town of Hollywood, we don't really have any commercial space for businesses to come in. There's a place there where the old town of Hollywood town hall used to be, and maybe there's one or two other places, but we don't have any nice commercial development. So if any developers out there, we'd like some commercial development space here here in the town of Hollywood.
And what would be ideal, obviously for that type of development?
Well, I would propose a mixed use, development that has single family homes and some commercial real estate as well.
Now, obviously, another issue in the town of Hollywood and most of the rural areas of South Carolina is obviously about internet access and Wi-Fi and broadband. Let me ask you this. Should the state of South Carolina make internet a utility?
The state of South Carolina should make high-speed internet a priority for all rural areas. Because without internet, I mean, here in this pandemic, a lot of kids are at home. If you don't have internet access, man, you're almost forced to go into a COVID environment at school because you don't have high-speed internet. And parents shouldn't have to make that decision, whether I have to send my child at home to school and risk them getting COVID because we don't have access to high-speed internet.
And with your experience, obviously, in construction, where should fiber lines be placed in the town of Hollywood?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Yes, sir. And with your experience in construction, where should fiber lines be placed in the town of Hollywood?
Well, excuse me, that's my dog.
Yes.
Right now, ironically, we just got fiber to our house last week.
Wow.
So the fiber lines they're running fiber lines now down Highway 162, but fiber lines need to be ran everywhere there's a need for internet access.
And I'm going to get to 162 in just a second. I also know that many people right now on the current Hollywood Town Council want, as you mentioned, obviously, to expand the water and sewer system. What for future land development and system expansion opportunities are ideal for the town right now?
As far as what now?
Yes, sir. What future land development and system expansion opportunities are ideal for the town?
Well, that's a complex question, but regarding the town, our sewer system really needs to be looked at really, really hard. There are people that actually have a sewer force main running right by their house, but they don't have access to sewer, which is kind of crazy. And a lot of people, if I didn't have a background in infrastructure, I'd be like, what do you mean? I have a sewer line running right in front of my house and, I can't tie into it. Well, yeah, because it's a force main, but everywhere there's a force main, we need to figure out how to get our people who are having sewer issues tied into our sewer system, especially when there's a line running right in front of their house. Now, I do realize, you can't directly tie into a force main, but we need to figure this out. We need to have bring in some engineers and get this thing figured out because it's ridiculous.
And what other study would you look at if you were on the town council today?
Other study I would look at, which I'm sure I would hope, is that 162 has experienced a lot of vehicle traffic, and as we add these developments, we are adding two new developments, one here at Stono Ferry and another one here down the road, just down the street. And I'm sure a travel study has been done, a traffic study has been done, but I'd be interested to see what that traffic impact study says, because in my mind, any development on 162 needs a turning lane so that it doesn't impact traffic flowing up and down that roadway. Because what's going to happen is, without a turn lane, a car making a left turn into a new development is going to start backing up traffic behind them, trying to get in and out of that development. It also just creates a safety hazard for cars coming out of that development being hit with the traffic coming down 162.
Now, right now, how many obviously turn lanes that they need on 162?
Well, right now, between Highway 17
Right.
and the town of Hollywood, there's only one, and it's there at Stono Ferry and the Deerfield developments. Now, we haven't seen the development there at Stono Ferry. We don't know where their main access is. Maybe it's inside of Stono Ferry, and if it is, that's awesome. But this other development that's up the street from it, it doesn't appear that there's a turn lane that will be constructed.
And let me ask you this about the water. What standards does the town's water supply meet right now in your mind?
Well, the town gets its water from Charleston Water Systems. So, in Charleston Water Systems have some of the best water in the state. So, the town really doesn't have anything to do with the quality of water that we receive from Charleston Water Systems.
Are you worried about limits to sewer expansion that might interfere with future development areas in Hollywood?
I'm sorry, say again?
Yes, sir. Are you worried about limits to the sewer expansion that might interfere with future development areas in Hollywood?
No, sewer expansion does not concern me. What I would like to see is not only sewer be expanded for new developments, but think about when that development is being constructed, how can we get others around that development tied into the system as well?
Are there any failing septic systems right now in the town of Hollywood?
Yes, I'm sure. Yes.
Okay.
I actually I know of 4 or either 5 that were failing. They've recently been repaired, but yes, they are.
And let's say, hypothetically, would bonds be necessary for a water and sewer expansion in Hollywood?
Bonds?
Yes, sir.
There's several ways to finance water infrastructure projects. Bonds, taxes. Those are studies that we can look at to see what's the best way to expand those systems. Typically, the people that use those systems pay enough into those systems to where expansion is feasible for federal grants.
Right. And let me talk to you about obviously improvements to Highway 162. How many sidewalks would you add to that particular highway?
My proposal for that, I'm glad you asked.
Okay.
Because any new development that comes along Highway 162 needs to have sidewalk, and it needs to extend not only just in front of that development, but 100 feet on each side of that development. That would be my proposal.
And you obviously talked earlier about the traffic around that area. Where would you improve that traffic flow on 162?
Well, you can't really improve traffic flow on 162. I mean, 162 is the main artery coming in and out of Hollywood. The only thing you can do is improve traffic flow on Highway 162, and you can do that with new developments being required to put in turning lanes.
And how do you provide safe access to those businesses on 162?
if you're in the town of Hollywood, you're fine because the speed limit's reduced down. I believe it's 35 through the town, and we have a major traffic light there at 162 and 165. The issue comes in is when you're not in the town and the speed limit's 55 miles an hour and you're trying to make a right turn or a left turn on the 162 in 55-mile-an-hour traffic. So one of the things we could start doing immediately is reduce the speed limit down to 45 miles an hour on Highway 162 and work with our local officers to enforce the speed limit on 162.
And if you were to be elected on obviously town council, what will you do on day one as far as policy?
Day one, I would ask for like I said earlier, I would ask for all new developments that's along Highway 162 that we ask that they install a turning lane on 162. I would start forging relationships with county officials and county administrators about doing the maintenance out here that's required along our roads. Highway 162, they actually repaved 162 from the town, going back towards Adams Run.
Right.
But from here on all the way back to Highway 17, that road's in bad condition. So I think that's really all it takes. It takes someone forging these relationships and building these relationships to get things done.
And what other things you would get done as far as senior housing? We talked about that earlier. What would you do?
So we can have a senior housing development similar to what we have at Harley Grove. I propose another development like that, and instead of it being for subsidized housing for rent, maybe we have that for seniors that are 65 and older.
Okay. Well, Trey Willis, thank you so much for your time. And again, welcome to the award-winning Quintin's Close-Ups.
Quintin, thank you for your time, man. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're very welcome.